chapter 4 of the Deuteronomy. And because of the, when I do the videos, I always put down what chapters we're covering. And I discovered I had to learn how to spell Deuteronomy. Because I'm used to just putting D-E-U-T period.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Hear now, O Israel, the decrees and laws I am about to teach you. Follow them so that you may live and may go in and take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your fathers, is giving you. Do not add to what I command you, and do not subtract from it, but keep the commands of the Lord your God that I give you. You saw with your own eyes that what the Lord did at Baal Peor. The Lord your God destroyed from among you everyone who followed the Baal of Peor. But all of you who held fast to the Lord your God are still alive today. See, I have taught you decrees and laws as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may follow them in the land you are entering to take possession of it. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about all these decrees and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. What other nation is so great as to have their gods near them, the way the Lord our God is near us whenever we pray to him? And what other nation is so great as to have such righteous decrees and laws as this body of laws I am setting before you today? Only be careful and watch yourselves closely, so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen, or let them slip from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to their children after them. Remember the day you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, when he said to me, assemble the people before me to hear my words, so that they may learn to revere me as long as they live in the land and may teach them to their children. You came near me and stood at the foot of the mountain while it blazed with fire to the very heavens, with black clouds and deep darkness. Then the Lord spoke to you out of the fire. You heard the sound of words, but saw no form. There was only a voice. He declared to you his covenant, the 10 Commandments, which he commanded you to follow, and then wrote them on 2 stone tablets. And the Lord directed me at that time to teach you the decrees and laws you are to follow in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You saw no form of any kind the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb out of the fire. Therefore, watch yourselves very carefully, so that you do not become corrupt, and make for yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman, or like any animal on earth, or any bird that flies in the air, or like any creature that moves along the ground, or any fish in the waters below. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshiping things the Lord your God has apportioned to all the nations under heaven. But as for you, the Lord took you and brought you out of the iron-smelting furnace, out of Egypt, to be the people of his inheritance, as you now are. The Lord was angry with me because of you, and he solemnly swore that I would not cross the Jordan and enter the good land the Lord your God is giving you as your inheritance. I will die in this land. I will not cross the Jordan. But you are about to cross over and take possession of that good land. Be careful not to forget the covenant of the Lord your God that he made with you. Do not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything the Lord your God has forbidden. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. After you have had children and grandchildren, and have lived in the land a long time, if you then become corrupt and make any kind of idol, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord your God and provoking him to anger, I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you this day, that you will quickly perish from the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You will not live there long, but will certainly be destroyed. The Lord will scatter you among the peoples, and only a few of you will survive among the nations to which the Lord will drive you. There you will worship man-made gods of wood and stone, which cannot see or hear or eat or smell. But if from there you seek the Lord your God, you will find him if you look for him with all your heart and with all your soul. When you are in distress and all these things have happened to you, then in later days you will return to the Lord your God and obey him. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not abandon or destroy you or forget the covenant with your forefathers, which he confirmed to them by oath. Ask now about the former days, long before your time, from the day God created man on the earth. Ask from one end of the heavens to the other. Has anything so great as this ever happened? Or has anything like it ever been heard of? Has any other people heard the voice of God speaking out of fire as you have and lived? Has any God ever tried to take for himself one nation out of another nation? By testings, by miraculous signs and wonders, by war, by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, or by great and awesome deeds, like all the things the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? You were shown these things so that you might know that the Lord is God. Besides him, there is no other. From heaven he made you hear his voice to discipline you. On earth he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words from out of the fire. Because he loved your forefathers and chose their descendants after them, he brought you out of Egypt by his presence and his great strength, to drive out before you nations greater and stronger than you, and to bring you into their land, to give it to you for your inheritance, as it is today. Acknowledge and take to heart this day that the Lord is God in heaven above and on earth below. There is no other. Keep his decrees and commands, which I am giving you today, so that it may go well with you and your children after you, and that you may live long in the land the Lord your God gives you for all time. Then Moses set aside 3 cities east of the Jordan, to which anyone who had killed a person could flee if he had unintentionally killed his neighbor without malice aforethought. He could flee into one of these cities and save his life. The cities were these. These are in the desert plateau for the Reubenites, Ramoth in Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan in Bashan for the Manassites.
Okay, let's pause there for just a minute. This is kind of Moses' farewell address. You know, and he said, I'm not going into the promised land. You know, you guys are going, but I'm staying behind. And he's constantly, you know, hammering this after you've had children and grandchildren and lived in a long time. If you then become corrupt and make up any kind of idol, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord, he will forgive you.
No.
He's saying, you know, that you can be bad, but you can turn to good. So that kind of concludes the first part of Deuteronomy. Now, beginning with verse 44, we're going into the law. And it's interesting, and we'll talk about the different laws as we go through them. But anyone have any questions at this point? You know, he's promoting that God is a loving God. Okay, let's continue on.
Oh, I do.
Yes.
So when it says, well, in the message, to which someone who had unintentionally killed a person could flee and find refuge, that doesn't refer to Moses, does it?
No, it refers to people, any of the Israelites did unintentionally murder somebody, they can go to that city until there's a judgment made.
Yeah.
So they won't be killed.
So he's giving 3 sanctuary cities.
Okay, sanctuary, yeah.
You know, that you can go there, and if you get there, no one can come and kill you. But it has to be unintentional.
Okay.
And, you know, when we get into the commandments, we'll find that all of them, except one commandment, has to deal with what's going on in your heart. When we talk about you shall not kill, that's straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so, okay. But
Sorry.
that's okay. That's good point.
Good question.
Sorry about the phone call. My grandson was checking on us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Verse 44.
Oh, no wonder I can't see. Sorry. This is the law Moses set before the Israelites. These are the stipulations, decrees, and laws Moses gave them when they came out of Egypt and were in the valley near Beth Peor, east of the Jordan, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon and was defeated by Moses and the Israelites as they came out of Egypt. They took possession of his land and the land of Og, king of Bashan, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan. This land extended from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Gorge to Mount Sion, that is Hermon, and included all the Arabah east of the Jordan, as far as the sea of the Arabah below the slopes of Pisgah.
Okay, before you go into chapter 5, that little introduction says, I'm going to give you the 10 Commandments, as if they have never heard them before.
Yeah.
So this, what we have now, is the Deuteronomist telling the story as somebody who has heard it. You know, Jews knew this story, but somebody had to write it down. So we have the Deuteronomist, and we're not really sure when this happens. One of the guesses is 1100 BC. So, you know, it's before the temple was constructed. So let's...
The Sea of the Arabah is the Dead Sea.
But they mentioned some land here east of the Jordan, which is, I thought the Jordan was, crossing that was getting into the Promised Land. So there's land also east of the Jordan that was part of the Promised Land.
Right.
I think it was 2.5 tribes had land on the east side of the Jordan before everybody else went over. And the deal was they could have that land if their men went with everybody else across the Jordan to fight to get their land.
And the message, and I miss this, but this is one thing I like about the message. It gives you a little bit more information. For example, when it says the Sea of Arabah, and then it says in parentheses, the Dead Sea. So, you know, they convert cubits into measurements that we can understand now. They convert money into things we can understand now. So let's hear Moses teaching Israel on the plains of Moab.
Moses summoned all Israel and said, Hear, O Israel, the decrees and laws I have declared in your hearing today. Learn them and be sure to follow them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us at Horeb. It was not with our fathers that the Lord made this covenant, but with us, with all of us who are alive here today. The Lord spoke to you face to face out of the fire on the mountain. At that time I stood between the Lord and you to declare to you the word of the Lord, because you were afraid of the fire and did not go up the mountain. And he said, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt and out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Observe the Sabbath. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your manservant or maidservant, nor your ox, your donkey, or any of your animals, nor the alien within your gates, so that your manservant and maidservant may rest as you do. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day.
Okay, let's pause there for a hot minute. These are being expanded. You know, it says, you should have no other gods but me. And just in case you don't understand, that means no carved gods of any shape or size or form of anything, whatever, whether of things that fly or walk or swim. Don't bow down to them and don't serve them, because I am your God, and I am a most jealous God. I hold parents responsible for any sins that they pass on. I mean, they.
That's a good way to say that.
Yeah, they're just really laying it out, and then get to the second. No using the name of God, your God, in curses or silly banter. God won't put up with irreverent use of his name. And again, when he's talking about his name, Yahweh. Yeah. And the Jews never, ever said Yahweh. Because to know somebody's name was to have a personal relationship with them.
They still don't. They still don't.
No, they don't. No working on the Sabbath. Keep it holy. And again, we're getting some details. They're fleshing out these commandments. It's a day of rest. No work for you, your son, your daughter, your servants, your maid, your ox, or your donkey, or any of your animals. And do not even the foreigner visiting you in your town. That way your servant and maids will get the same rest as you. Don't ever forget that you were slaves in Egypt. I mean, this has covered everything. Who gets the Sabbath off? Everybody. And if they're in your house, they get the Sabbath off. Which brings me back to my friend in college who made a small fortune going around in this Jewish high-rise, turning on the television, changing the channel. He wasn't Jewish. And he wasn't a member of their household. He was just some kid whose family happened to be Christian. And so, Sabbath fast.
They didn't consider him a resident alien.
No. And, as most Christians, we tend to work around that Sabbath rule. I mean, we don't take it seriously.
And we have one explanation of why we keep the Sabbath. In the original one, in Exodus, it's a different reason.
Yes.
It has to do with creation there.
Right. And remember now, what we're dealing with is a whole different time. People from the Exodus journey to now, things have changed. Where I said, Israel when this time was written, Israel was a country. It had 12 tribes, the northern and the southern kingdom, but it was a country. And so they've had to extend these rules. Those things that were agricultural rules Now they're trying to figure out, well, how do we apply those to finance? How do we apply those to people who are divorced? And when they've established a country and they've put a wall around it, they've got some control over who comes in and who comes out, so they need to have some kind of understanding. How do we deal with those people? The same thing we're facing in this country here. You know, who do we let in? Is there a process? And if somebody sneaks in, you know, how do we handle that? You know, I'm not sure what the answer is.
Wait until the next election. Then decide.
So, you know, you have, as the country changed, and that's happened in this country. We started off as an agricultural country. And then the Industrial Revolution happened. And all of a sudden, you know, when you're an agricultural country or economy, you know, I think back to my friend who had the broken neck. She and her husband were farmers. And I know when I was young, I worked on a farm. And there were no work permits.
Yeah.
There were no rules about using high-powered equipment because there wasn't any.
There probably weren't many rules about taking God's name in vain.
Oh, no. And if you were a kid and you screwed up and the farmer saw you, you'd find there was a whole lot of names that could be used. So, you know, what's happening is the culture's changing. The Deuteronomist is trying to expand on this. Remember, they originally, on the Sabbath, they weren't concerned about the servants. But now it says, your servants and maid will get the same rest as you. So, you know,
From these 10 commandments, ultimately, I suppose mostly the Pharisees, I'm not sure, but they came up with 613 laws.
well, that's what we get in the Book of the Covenant. And that's going to be expanded as we go through Deuteronomy.
So getting lawyers is a new thing.
Because it started with things like, okay, we're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. Well, what's work? So they came up with a bunch of laws about that. Do not covet. Well, what's coveting? And they came up ultimately with 613 laws you had to follow.
Well, and murder. I mean,
Yeah.
look what we've done with murder today. I mean, we have justifiable homicide. You know, if your neighbor happens to wear a red hat that says "Make America Great Again" and you shoot him, is that illegal?
Well, it should be.
Well,
And are we to, excuse me,
No,
are
go
we
ahead.
to assume that the servants were not Jewish? Or would they have been Jewish?
some of them,
Some of them would, some of them not.
Okay,
you know, they're covering all of them
okay,
with this.
got it, yeah, thank you.
I noticed here, it doesn't say anything about your wife. So can your wife work?
I was going to raise that
Good point. Good
question
point.
because
Only if you want dinner.
all the names that was written, the wife was not mentioned at all. His sons, his daughters, everyone
Oh.
but the wife. I was like him, I was going to raise that question because
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3,
Oh, no.
4. We have a majority, guys. So what we say goes.
That was too funny.
Okay, let's
Okay.
continue on.
Verse 16.
Verse 16.
Okay. Honor your father and your mother as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live long and that it may go well with you in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house or land, his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor.
Okay, now we've got all 10 of them laid out. One of the commentaries I read was talking about how that last one, that coveting, differs from the other. The others are just something that says you can't do. But coveting is something that you don't always have control over. I mean, if your next door neighbor pulls in the driveway with a new car and you see it, how do you, I mean, you think, well, damn, every time I used to come in and see that Lincoln that you were driving, I love a Lincoln.
Me too.
But it that's something that's internal over which you may not have a lot of control. Adultery, murder, stealing, lying, all that you can control. But coveting is an emotion. And you really can't always control emotions. I mean, sometimes when you see somebody who falls, on the ice, slips on the ice and falls, you laugh. I mean, you're worried about them, but you got to laugh first because it's humor that kind of pops up. And if you're in church and you think of something that's funny, I mean, I've had this happen when the bishop was in Kingman. He said something, and I tied it to something else, and I started laughing. Well, the harder I tried not to laugh, the more I laughed. And I said, Bishop, I'm sorry, it's nothing you said, it's just me. But I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, that is something over which I couldn't control it. When someone cries, sometimes it's an emotion that they're feeling, they remember it, and it isn't necessarily sad tears. It could be happy tears. It could be, why are you crying? I don't know. So
Emotions in and of themselves are not bad. It's what you do with them
right.
that makes them good or bad.
But see,
It's how you handle them.
but you really can't handle. I mean, coveting is a hard thing.
Well, all emotions can be hard to deal with.
Well, but you can say no stealing. That's an easy one. You can control that. But if your neighbor drives in with a new Lincoln, sometimes you just say, "Wow, damn! I wonder how he got that."
Ask him, he's sitting right there.
You're not driving a Lincoln now, are you? See, now I don't feel so bad. But and he's talking in his coveting. He said, "Your neighbor's wife." He's already said no adultery. So you're not, that coveting your neighbor's wife doesn't mean you're going to have adultery, but you have feelings. No lusting for his house, his field, his servant, his maid, his ox, or his donkey. Nothing that belongs to your neighbor. I mean, at one time or another in all our lives, we've said, "Oh, I wish I had." Farmers, wheat farmers, when a hailstorm hits and it wipes out one farmer's field, but not the other farmers. If I had the field that got wiped out, I'd say, "I wish my wheat looked like his." It doesn't mean you're going to go over and set his wheat on fire, but that's kind of coveting. And I want to say it's a natural feeling. You think, damn, why did that have to happen? And who do we blame?
God.
That's right. So it all ties into your relationship with God.
I thought the devil made me
That's
covet.
right.
Well,
I thought the devil made me covet that.
For Flip Wilson, that would have been the case. Okay, Barbara, let's move on.
These are the commandments the Lord proclaimed in a loud voice to your whole assembly there on the mountain from out of the fire, the cloud, and the deep darkness. And he added nothing more. Then he wrote them on 2 stone tablets and gave them to me. When you heard the voice out of the darkness while the mountain was ablaze with fire, all the leading men of your tribes and your elders came to me. And you said, "The Lord our God has shown us his glory and his majesty, and we have heard his voice from the fire. Today we have seen that a man can live even if he speaks with him. But now, why should we die? This great fire will consume us, and we will die if we hear the voice of the Lord our God any longer. For what mortal man has ever heard the voice of the living God speaking out of fire, as we have, and survived? Go near and listen to all that the Lord our God says. Then tell us whatever the Lord our God tells you. We will listen and obey." The Lord heard you when you spoke to me, and the Lord said to me, "I have heard what this people said to you. Everything they said was good. Oh, that their hearts would be inclined to fear me and keep all my commandments always, so that it might go well with them and their children forever. Go, tell them to return to their tents, but you stay here with me so that I may give you all the commands, decrees, and laws you are to teach them to follow in the land I am giving them to possess. So be careful to do what the Lord your God has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or to the left. Walk in all the way that the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live and prosper and prolong your days in the land that you will possess."
Okay.
Great.
So we have a recitation of how it happened with Moses. You know, God spoke to them. He didn't speak to all the people. He spoke to Moses. And God heard what you said to me and told me, "I have heard what the people said to you. You're right. Good and true words. What I wouldn't give if they always feel this way, continuing to revere me the way, always keep my commands. They'd have a good life forever, they and their children. Follow the 10 Commandments, everything will be perfect." And now, God's going to expand a little bit on this. Let's get into chapter 6, because there's a very important thing that's going to occur in this chapter.
"These are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that your children and their children after them may fear the Lord your God as long as you live, by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you, and so that you may enjoy long life. Hear, O Israel, and be careful to obey, so that it may go well with you, and that you may increase greatly in a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your fathers, promised you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates."
Okay. You wouldn't know how important that passage you read unless you were Jewish. That, beginning with verse 4, is the Summa.
Shema.
Shema. I just remember, in Virginia we call it the Summa. That is the most holy prayer a Jew can say. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Shema Israel, Adonai, Heva, Adonai Hiktuf. Jews will say that prayer every morning and every night. It is the holiest words that you can say. When I was in seminary and we were studying this, I learned I could write that in Hebrew. And my ex-wife had a good friend who was Jewish from college. And she lived in New York. She was Jewish. And my wife sent her a letter. And I got the back of the envelope. And I wrote the Shema in Hebrew. And when this young woman received it, she called. And she said, "You have no idea how impressed my mother was that you wrote that."
Mm.
She said, "You even wrote it the right way." Because you're right, Hebrew is read from the right to the left. And of course I had taken Hebrew, so I knew I could write it. But she said, my mother was so pleased. She said, what really impressed her the most was that every person in the post office had to see that.
Oh.
And that, when, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Shema Israel. Adonai. Adonai Ektiv. I mean, that is out of the whole book of Deuteronomy. Those are probably the most important words. And
they put in the mezuzahs on their doorposts
yeah. I mean, it's
in the gate.
This is really, out of all the words that people read, that was the most important, because it says, hey, the message says, attention, Israel, God, our God, God, the one and only. So it's, that's back to thou shalt have no other gods but me. So that's a condensed of that commandment. And it was, I guess you could say it's their Lord's Prayer, their creed, all wrapped up into one. And if you went to a synagogue, you would hear that. But as I say, now I'm not sure what Reformed Jews today do, but traditionally, a Jew will say that every morning and every night. It's kind of your nighttime prayers, beginning the morning.
And then they wear that, some of them wear that.
The men, yes, they wear the
Vial.
thing with a box on their forehead, and it has this in it.
Is that what it has in it?
Yeah.
And then they put them on their doorposts, and they have them on their hand too, don't they?
Hmm?
They have a phylactery on their hand,
Yes.
forehead and hand.
One thing they don't do is tattoo it,
No,
because it's against the rules to mess with your body. But that is, if you met somebody who was Jewish,
I
you
always
said,
wondered what that was.
it's a
hero,
phylactery, and then what they put on the doorpost is a mezuzah.
and with that, Shema, Shema Israel, Adonai. You know what Adonai means? God. Instead of saying Yahweh, it's Adonai. But when you read that in Hebrew, it's spelled out Yahweh.
Oh.
But it's pronounced Yahweh. Because you cannot say Yahweh. Because if you know God's first name, you have a relationship with him or her that none of us are able to have. Even Moses, who went up in the mountain, Moses probably had more interaction face to face. Talking to a burning bush can be face to face. And remember, in Exodus, it was mentioned that Moses talked to God face to face, just like two men. Well, we get to Deuteronomy. This guy's not buying any of that. So here, this. When 6 starts off, this is the commandment, the rules and regulations that God, your God, command me to teach. You are to live out in the land about which you are cross into possess.
As a Christian, this reminds me of the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say it twice daily for sure. And if I was a Jew, I'd do the Shema.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just so much. I mean, the meaning there is so significant. And
Very concise and to the point.
yes. And when a Jew is saying that, they're not saying, well, I heard that on radio or saw it on the television. This comes from Moses. Moses laid that out for us. So.
Doesn't yours ever irritate a little bit?
That's why I put it under my collar. So, it's almost 11. Do you think we can get through the rest of this chapter?
Yes. We can try. Okay.
Verse 10?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you, a land with large, flourishing cities you did not build, houses filled with all kinds of good things you did not provide, wells you did not dig, and vineyards and olive groves you did not plant. Then when you eat and are satisfied, be careful that you do not forget the Lord who brought you out of Egypt and out of the land of slavery. Fear the Lord your God, serve him only, and take your oaths in his name. Do not follow other gods, the gods of the peoples around you. For the Lord your God who is among you is a jealous God, and his anger will burn against you, and he will destroy you from the face of the land. Do not test the Lord your God as you did at Massah. Be sure to keep the commands of the Lord your God and the stipulations and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so that it may go well with you, and you may go in and take over the good land that the Lord promised on oath to your forefathers, thrusting out all your enemies before you, as the Lord said. In the future, when your son asks you, what is the meaning of the stipulations, decrees, and laws the Lord our God has commanded you? Tell him, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Before our eyes the Lord sent miraculous signs and wonders, great and terrible, upon Egypt and Pharaoh and his whole household. But he brought us out from there to bring us in and give us the land that he promised on oath to our forefathers. The Lord commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear the Lord our God, so that we might always prosper and be kept alive, as is the case today. And if we are careful to obey all this law before the Lord our God, as he has commanded us, that will be our righteousness.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is that a duck or a goose?
It's a duck, I think.
Oh.
What do you? Well, I don't know.
It's not a goose honks.
Yeah. I'm trying to. I've lost where it is. I wrapped up with the Shema. But again, Moses, we're told, is trying to tell people, be grateful. Verse 10, God ushers you in the land of promise through your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you. You're going to walk into a large, bustling cities you didn't build, well-furnished houses you didn't buy, come upon wells you didn't dig, vineyards and orchards you didn't plant. When you take it all and settle down, please and content, make sure you don't forget how you got there. God brought you out of slavery in Egypt. I mean, God is a God of power. All right, we'll pick up with
Chapter 7.
chapter 7 next time, everybody except Kathy
And Charles.
and Charles. Well, I'm planning on him coming in.
Any word on Harold?